You hold in these pages the account of a time and place that most Americans have forgotten, and many veterans never cared to speak of again. It concerns our service at Suffolk, Virginia, during the winter of 1862 and the early months of '63, a strange interlude in the war that was neither grand nor celebrated, yet proved to be pivotal in ways we only learned years afterward. If you think warfare is only Gettysburg, Antietam, and the Wilderness, you will read here how a regiment earns its steel before the nation ever knows its name. Ours came not by way of grand assaults or stirring flags, but in the sand and mud of the great dismal bounds, by way of endless marches, black marsh water, and orders that tested endurance more severely than musketry ever could. When you read this page, you will learn of the Blackwater marches, 30, 40, even 50 miles at a stretch, without sleep, without proper rest, and sometimes without purpose, save for the whims of an overzealous commander eager to see how much strain his men could bear. And bear it they did. I have seen men fall by the roadside and be cursed for their frailty. I have seen others march until spirit alone moved their legs. You will read about it here without varnish. You will also see that while we suffered, we did not do so without humor. Soldiers are great thieves of misery, snatching laughter out of the jaws of torment. There was looting of Setesh farms, feasting on chickens and sweet potatoes, and the making of coffee in barns, while storm winds rattled the tin cups. War is 1,000 indignities, but never without its amusements. But the point of all those marches will become clearer to you as you progress. For what seemed senseless to those of us in the ranks turned out to be, in the minds of the generals, a preparation for something larger, to keep Confederate forces occupied, to ease pressure on North Carolina, and to prevent an enemy thrust toward Norfolk and the sea. We were a hinge, though at the time we felt more like a treadmill. The climax of these recollections is the Battle of Deserted House, called by some Kelly's Store, our first baptism of heavy fire. You will read of it in full, with the roar of artillery in the dark, shells scattering horses and men alike, and the field lit by fuses arcing through the night sky. You will read of men killed beside their comrades, of cannoneers ramrodding their pieces even after limbs were torn away, and of our gallant Colonel Gibbs, who under arrest and without sword, seized the colors and carried them to the front. From that hour he ceased to be merely our commander, and became the man we would follow into hell's own furnace. You will also read of the follies of command, Corcoran's in this case, and how battles are sometimes won despite the officers rather than because of them. A veteran will tell you plainly that glory is often attributed in the wrong direction, while the men who stood in the line and bore the brunt are remembered only in casualty rolls and pension ledgers. This account attempts to do them better justice. You will find no grand political treatises here, no abstractions about union or nation or destiny. What you will find are the things soldiers remember: the cold mud, the forced marches, the cursing of officers, the looting of pantries, the music that kept the column alive, and finally the crash of shells and screams of horses that mark the true price of battle. If you read it straight through, you may come away with a clearer sense of what the 130th New York endured before it ever earned its fame as the first New York Dragoons. It is the story of how infantry learned to fight, how soldiers learned to trust, and how a regiment became, at last, a weapon worthy of the work ahead. I remain your obedient servant, Major Rufus Scott.